This QDS video will show you how to work with ACASI, CAPI, and HAPI data files, create a data warehouse in the Warehouse Manager, and export your data. Before beginning data collection, you will need to understand how QDS data files work and develop a data management strategy for your study. First, we will go over how interview data is saved. We will talk specifically about ACASI data, but the same principles would also apply to data collected with the QDS CAPI or HAPI modules. For data collected using QDS Web, see our training video on working with web-collected data. After you have completed an interview, you need to know where to find your data. Your QDS data files will always be saved into the same folder as your control file. By default, the data file name will be the same as your control file, with the extension .qad. Here we have Study on ACASI.qsi. This is the ACASI interview control file. The name is a combination of the Design Studio file name plus EN for English plus ACASI.qsi. Then we have Study on ACASI.qad, and this is the data file. The final file, Study on ACASI.log, is a log file that contains interviewer comments. This is generally empty for an ACASI survey. Next, you need to understand how QDS interviews are saved into the data file. When you begin a new interview, ACASI will first look to see if a data file with the corresponding file name already exists in that folder. For this example, it will look to see if Study on ACASI.qad is found. If it is not found, then a new data file will be started. If it is found, then the new interview is appended to the end of the existing data file. New interviews will continue to be added to the existing data file until that file is moved, renamed, or deleted. We generally recommend that you rename and close out your QDS data files on a regular basis, so you will need to decide on a renaming convention for each study. For example, on a regular basis, such as weekly, each QDAD data file on each interview computer could be closed out by renaming with the file name, site indicator, date, and data collection computer number. So, Study in ACASI.qad could be renamed to the following. These new file names. The first name here indicates that the ACASI data file was closed on December 2nd, 2011 at Site A on interview computer number 1. Your particular naming scheme and how often you decide to rename and close out data files will depend on your study design. Once you have completed your data collection or would like to begin warehousing your data for export, you will need to have the data files sent to your data management staff to work with in the Warehouse Manager. They can be sent in any way you would ordinarily send files, such as email attachments, FTP, or USB drives. After opening the QDS Warehouse Manager, you will first need to create a new warehouse for your data. Keep in mind that you don't need to create it ahead of time because empty warehouses are not saved. So, go to File, New Warehouse, and then you'll enter your file name in the file name box and click Open. You will first see an empty warehouse. To add data to your new warehouse, go to File, Open Source Data File from the main menu, or you can also select the Open button. To get ACASI data, you would select QAD files from the type box, and this would also apply for CAPI or HAPI data files. So, select the data file that you would like to add to the warehouse and then click Open. And now you will see two windows. One of these files is for the local warehouse and one is your source data file. To transfer interviews from your data file to the warehouse, first select your interviews. To select all interviews, go to Edit, Select All. You can also select a subset of interviews by using the Control or Shift plus the arrow keys. To move the interviews to your local warehouse, go to Edit, Copy to Warehouse, or you could simply drag and drop your interviews. You will now see that the status of these interviews has changed to transferred in the source data window, and your interviews are now also in the local warehouse file. You can then close your source data file and be sure to save it so that the status is preserved. If you have multiple data files to add at once, you can use the Transfer Multiple Data Files function. This saves time if you have many files to work with. So to do that, go to File, Transfer Multiple Data Files from the main menu, or you can select the Transfer button. Select the data files to be added. You can select multiple files by using the Control and Shift keys. Then select the Transfer button. If the warehouse manager detects a duplicate interview, as has just happened here, according to the subject identifiers, a dialog box will pop up and give you a choice of replacing or keeping both interviews. If both interviews are retained, then they are marked as duplicates in the status column. For this example, we will keep both interviews. So we select No. A dialog box will tell you how many interviews were transferred from your documents. The source files were automatically saved with the status of each interview changed to transferred. In the local warehouse, the bar shows you columns for status, such as complete, duplicate. It would also show if interviews are incomplete or deleted. There are also columns for version and date recorded. Subject ID, which for this sample study is a combination of Site ID and Subject ID, note that that is set under Options Interviews in the Design Studio. The final columns are date in to the warehouse and date out shipped from warehouse, and change date if the data was modified. To view your collected data, just double-click on the interview that you would like to open. The Interview tab will give you date and version information. Then you can go to the Variables tab to see a listing of variable names, labels, and responses. And then you can click OK when you are done. To modify collected data, go to Edit, Details, or you can select the Modify button from the main menu. By default, you will first be asked for your name or initials. This will provide the username for the data corrections log. So enter a name or initials and then click OK. The Interview Details dialog box will open to the Variables tab. Here you can double-click on any variable you wish to modify. If you do make a modification, the default settings require you to enter a reason in the Reason for Change box. To exit without making any changes, click Cancel as we will do here. Click OK again to go back to your local warehouse. When you are ready to export your data, go to File and then Export Interviews. Then you can enter a name in the file name box. Then select the type of file you would like to export to from the Save As drop-down box, such as SPSS, STATA, SAS, MS Access, ASCII text file, or you can also export the interviewer comments log. If you wanted to export just a subset of variables, you would select that here. If you'd like to change any export options, select the Options button in the lower right corner. It is often useful to recode your special code values to ones that work best with the software you are exporting to. So for SPSS, you can select the Recode to Specify Values button, and then you can use the specified values over at the right, or you could input your own values. There are similar options for SAS, STATA, Access, or ASCII text file. Once you have completed your changes, click OK and then Save. The Warehouse Manager will report how many interviews have been exported to your file. Keep in mind that only standard version interviews will be exported. To learn more about QDS data management and working in the Warehouse Manager, see QDS Online Help and other Design Studio videos.